Let's talk through the new, intended to be 5090 GPU PC build here. My son and I did build the new PC a couple weeks ago now. I was intending or originally thinking to do it as a live stream, but we kind of got set up. We were a little pressed for time and it just didn't make sense to. I just kind of wanted it to end up being a father-son thing, kind of teaching through a variety of the aspects of PC building and all of that. So I'm making this video. It's kind of like a reflective vlog of sorts about how the build went together, what worked and what failed. Some of the mistakes I made. I really certainly like elements of this build, and there were some things that I kind of miscalculated about. So I figured let's talk through kind of each of the components and then comment on what I liked, what I didn't like, and how things more or less kind of cohesively came together in the final build. So we are looking at the Thermaltake The Tower 250 case, a relatively new case with this really nice forward-facing kind of fishbowl style design. We've got the GPU on the far left side here and the all-in-one cooler on the far right side. I love the fact how the cables come out of the back, and I have this now no longer sitting downstairs on the top of my AV cabinet, top of my AV rack, but it's up here in the living room where we have a little more accessibility to the computer. We have direct or less interfered with, less problematic wireless connectivity for the controllers. I can plug in things via wired USB directly if I need to for fight sticks and arcade sticks and the like. So definitely like having this up here. It runs pretty cool, it runs pretty quiet, and everything is working out in that regard. It looks great and nice and small and svelte, kind of standing here off to the side of my larger speaker and in-wall television setup behind me. I think overall this case was really nice to work in, very accessible. All of the panels come on and off very easily. Front panels, bottom panels, side panels, and all of that. There's a lot of either like just kind of pop in, pop off types of things, or magnetic style connections as well. Again, given its size, very accessible, very easy to work in. Could get to kind of everything. You didn't have to be a little intelligent at points about routing certain things ahead of certain other things. I'll get to a little more on the sizing as we talk about the components that are specifically in there. I love, again, the fact that the cables all come out the back, and I didn't have any problem getting the cable routings and plugging things in to the motherboard and the video card kind of through that accessibility area. All of the sections bringing air into the case have filters and covers, some of them removable, some of them not, depends on specifically which one. But I'm really digging it. I think it looks sharp. Again, fits the space. It fits the design elements and the things that I was looking for in this PC build. We do have just the two included case fans running. They're on the top, exhausting air up. I didn't change these out for anything, nor did I add any additional case fans anywhere else in the setup. So if we go part by part, kind of starting from the bottom, down in the bottom well there, we have the NZXT C1500 Platinum power supply. I think this was great. This is exactly what I was looking for. 80 plus platinum rated power supply, fully modular, RTX 3.1 as well. So we are running one of the single power connections to the 4090 GPU that's still in here. I was intending for this build to be a 5090 build, but I have yet been able to actually secure a 5090 card. More on that as we continue to discuss. But full-size RTX power supply fits down in the bottom just fine. There are just enough room to kind of squeeze all the cable routings and mountings down here on the front of the computer in front of the power supply, and with that panel on, they're all obscured. You can't really see anything. Silent PSU, not hearing that, especially relative to the other fans running within the system. 1500 watt. One thing to note with this power supply is because it is such high wattage, I think if you get into 1600 watt and higher power supplies, now you start needing to actually have 20 amp plugs and the T-shaped plugs for your wall. This is just under that level, so this does plug in. The included power cord does plug into a regular outlet, regular wall outlet. However, the power supply side has the more horizontal tabs for the power cord. So if you're going to use a different power cord with this power supply, you need a beefier rated and the proper type of connection on the power supply side. So keep that in mind. Motherboard, there are precious few 870 ITX motherboards available on the market. I think there's a white Gigabyte model and then the Asus one. I've usually been using Asus motherboards in my last few PC builds. So here I went with the ROG Strix X870i. Good looking board. Of course, it's ITX. The case is ITX. It fits in there very nice. This board is mounted 90 degrees turned, so the I/O is facing up, again, under the fans in the cavity in the well behind there. I found the motherboard really easy to use. Installing the CPU, we are using an AMD 9800X3D. Went in without a hitch. RAM as well, no problem. G-Skill DDR5 6000, Trident Z5 Neo RGB with the AMD Expo capability. And then also a Crucial T700 PCI Gen 5 4TB SSD. So all of this stuff installed exactly as we would want it to on the motherboard. I'm perfectly fine with this PC build being an ITX build. I don't need any extra I/O or capability than that. One slot for one GPU, one CPU, one SSD, and 2 sticks of memory is all that I was needing here. I guess I should comment, this is 64 gig of RAM as well, 2 times 32 gigabyte sticks. Again, no real challenges or troubles with the board overall. It did take us a minute to figure out that installing the SSD has a little bit of a tab that you kind of pull back and clip to hold it in. The SSD goes under in the first port right under this Strix section here at the bottom. There is this kind of separate I/O board that had to be installed, but I had enough connectivity for everything that I needed to do in here. We had one basically case fan header, and these fans are already wired together, connected to that header. We had the headers necessary to connect the all-in-one cooling system for the CPU, and we had enough capability to connect all of the USB I/O on the case itself, as well as the core power reset switch type of infrastructure. So no loss there. I do like a couple of other little finer aspects, like some of the unused header connectors. They have caps basically, so keep them clean, keep them dust free or whatever. Just take the caps off of the things that you're using. One other thing to note is the motherboard did come with an antenna. Of course, we have a Wi-Fi USB antenna here. It is magnetic. I've got it stuck basically onto the back of the case there, sticking up behind it. I use that for the PlayStation controller reception. I did actually go back to using the Xbox wireless adapter for PC rather than running my Xbox Elite and Xbox controllers on Bluetooth as well. I think overall that's a little bit preferable of a connection type. For the Xbox controllers, I wasn't able to use the Xbox wireless adapter when the PC was farther away. However, it's working fine in here, and that, as well as the Logitech little mini wireless receiver for my keyboard mouse, are plugged into the motherboard I/O, not the front panel I/O. And I haven't had any problems with those being inside a bit of the cage of the case and directly connected to the motherboard inside. So they're hidden away, they're obscured, and everything is working good. The one thing to keep in mind with the antenna is I had bought a larger Y-shaped high gain antenna that I was using with the other PC. It was basically a generic antenna that conceivably you would be able to use with any motherboard by screwing it in to the antenna terminals on the motherboard. However, I think because this is an ITX board, they just kept things smaller. They kept the I/O connections smaller, and the included antenna just has push tabs. It doesn't have screw terminals, so I actually wasn't able to use my higher gain specific antenna that I bought. But as long as the PC is residing here in the living room, I don't think we specifically need the high gain antenna anymore. The one that's included in the box is just fine. And again, thankfully, it's magnetic, so again, sticks right on the back there. Sticks up a little bit, it's not obtrusive, and it works great, exactly how I need it to work. We also have 2.5 GBE Ethernet on this motherboard, which I am using now. I've got the Ubiquiti Network upgrade overhaul fully in effect throughout the household, connecting into a wired Ethernet port on the wall here just behind the computer. And again, taking full advantage of that network bandwidth. All right, let's talk about the all-in-one. So this is where some of the challenges of the build started to come into place. I did go with an NZXT Kraken Elite 360 RGB. This is the new, I guess, 2024 model of their cooler series. I did have a Kraken X73 in my prior PC build. It's worked great for a number of years, and there's elements that I really liked about this cooler. I liked the fact that the fan compartment is basically one single compartment, not 3 discrete fans with extra wiring. And I really like how they keep the wiring of this thing very compact. You basically have one major wiring set that connects in between where the hoses come into the radiator, and then that spiders off into a bunch of the connections. There's a SATA power connection, there's a USB data connection, and a couple of other things basically that you need to plug in. But it means that you don't actually have to plug any wiring into the header over the CPU itself. Again, keeping the look and the installation and all of that really nice and clean. Now, what I didn't factor for is the size of this. I was actually, in preparation of doing the build, I was watching some other reviews and PC build videos of some of the components that I was using here, and one of them, they actually made a comment that this Kraken Elite 360 is a little bit larger size of an all-in-one cooler in the radiator. I'm like, oh, I hope that's not a problem for trying to put that into a Tower 250. I'm using a lot of brand newly released kind of stuff here, so there really wasn't information to go looking for discussing or kind of covering this specific set of components going together. And so what I can say is that this didn't really fit. It was a little too big. If you look at the specs of the Tower 250 case, they recommend an all-in-one radiator size of 400 millimeters. And if you look at the size spec somewhere on here, I think is printed on the box, it was actually 401 millimeters. So when we went to install this thing here, we took off the side bracket, we screwed it on to the radiator outside of the case. We tried to set it in there into the tab and the groove and push it up, and it hit. It wouldn't close in. There was just not enough size to be able to get the radiator in there. So it's like, okay, well, let's kind of fish the radiator in, and then we can kind of hold it. We can leave the bracket in the case itself, and we can attach them while it's in the case together. That didn't work as well. There's actually under the head of the case right here, there's a slight little angled back metal slab, so to speak. It's basically just kind of obscuring. If you get down and you look into the case, the purpose of this metal tab is kind of meant to hide a little bit of the visibility of the I/O header of the motherboard. The very corner, it doesn't go all the way across the case. It kind of stops a little bit just around the area of the edge of where the radiator hits. And so the corner of that metal flap was impacting the top corner edge of the radiator. So I did a little bit of modification and basically just opted to go ahead and bend that flap back, giving me enough clearance to be able to get the radiator set and mounted flush and properly the way it's supposed to be. I just created a couple little extra millimeters of clearance. It might have been nice if they would have just stopped that flap, not made it so wide so that it actually had full clearance and it didn't go into the area that would be affecting the radiator, or just maybe added a couple millimeters of height to the case overall to help accommodate that. But as it is, everything is in. It's not impacting on the bottom, it's not impacting the motherboard, it's not impacting anywhere else. Just a little bit of that, the challenge of the height, and again, bending that flat back got me what I needed to be able to get this thing properly and fully installed as we wanted and expected it to. Now, I did install the NZXT CAM software and was playing around with that. I've been able to customize the information that appears on the header itself. It's pretty nice sitting on the couch, playing games and using the computer and being able to just look across the room and say, hey, our temperatures, is everything running the way that it's supposed to? I had thought, I had done some searches, and I had thought that I had validated that you would be able to show game FPS on the header. That's the thing that I actually really wanted to be able to do. I wanted to be able to look across the room and see the frame rate of the current game being played without having to have a frame rate monitor obscuring the game itself on the screen. And I have not been able to find the setting in NZXT CAM to be able to do that. So I don't know if I just need to look again and find the right spot for that, or hopefully it's not a function of the fact that you actually can't do that. That would be a little bit of a bummer. As it is, I am able to put up to like 3 different temperatures on the face of the pump. So I would really like to be able to do FPS is the big number, Game FPS is the big number, and then like CPU and GPU temperature is the other two numbers. And this thing's pretty quiet. It's kicking up a little bit here. I think we're losing a little bit of the integrity, of our cooling by not having the front panel off. But I suspect that none of this fan noise is coming through or even being picked up by the camera there. You got a lot of flexibility as well with the all-in-one in terms of the RGB and what it looks like. I got some Techthusiasm stuff going on here, kind of having the fans and the pump face ring flipping back and forth between orange and blue. Same with the RGB memory. Actually, G.Skill has a little applet allowing you to kind of tweak the presentation and the way that the RGB looks on the RAM. I found that to be a little bit lacking though compared to the CAM software, unfortunately, in terms of making it glow the colors and the rhythm or the pulsing and stuff the way that I wanted it to. But it works. It was also very nice and easy. This pump header can be oriented in pretty much any configuration that you need. The way the brackets work, you kind of just pop the Intel brackets off, put the AMD brackets on, and they can go in either orientation, giving you whatever orientation you need for this, as well as being able to control orientation within the CAM software if you need to as well. All right, so let's talk about the GPU. Again, I have been completely unsuccessful in being able to secure a 5090. I've been watching a variety of the trackers. Launch morning was a debacle. This whole 5090 product launch is a debacle. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that NVIDIA announces and intends to release a product that is like completely shelf non-existent. The fact that we can't buy these things, and now even weeks later, making it so difficult to try to get a hold of a 5090, and the way the prices have gone and all of that, it's fairly disgusting, I have to say, and it's definitely one of those things that makes me rethink PC gaming. Granted, whenever the PlayStation 6 and the next stuff comes out, those are probably going to be equally hard to get on launch and whatnot, but it's just so disappointing that these products can't be announced and made available to customers that want to buy them in reasonable quantity, that we have to fight all these stupid online shopping carts, fight the scalpers, and all of that. I just want one GPU to use for myself. Can't get it. So I did transplant my 4090 from the prior PC to this one. The 4090 is still a heck of a card, so I'll be happy to get a 5090 when I get one, but I'm not under any duress. So it was definitely wiser to not have pre-sold the 4090 expecting to buy a 5090. I will never sell my current GPU until I have the replacement GPU 100% in my hands and ready to install in my computer. Now you'll notice that since I started this video and I turned the PC to the side a little bit here to kind of look at the GPU side, we didn't have the side panel. This is the one from the all-in-one cooling side, but the side panel for the GPU, it's in the box. Why is that? Well, it doesn't fit. So the rated spec, I believe it is on this Tower 250 for the slot width or the depth of the GPU is like 70 millimeters in order to be able to fit inside the alignment of the case and be able to put the side panel on. And this MSI Gaming X Trio 4090 is something like 76 or 77 millimeters. So the GPU is extended, it's sticking out of the side of the case itself to the point where I can't put the side panel on. So yet another reason why I would very much like to have a 5090. I'm going to have to be smart or cognizant of what 5090 I buy, making sure that I buy a 5090 of the appropriate size, that I can actually fit it in the case and I can put the side panel on, because I don't prefer to be running this without the side panel on there. I'd like to have the dust filtration and all of that, but hey, at least what I have still fits. I think we're just about at the maximum length here as well, so I wouldn't want to be shopping or purchasing any kind of longer 5090 card when it comes to it. I think Founders Edition would fit in there perfectly just fine, quite a bit of clearance all around it, but I think there's a Supra model, there's a Zotac, there's a choice of another like three to six, I would say, different specific 5090 models that should fit in here and meet the specs no problem. I need to actually make myself a dedicated list, go through all the different card makers and look at all of their sizes and make myself a dedicated list that when it comes to it, when they come available, these are specifically the 5090s that I can choose from to fit in the case properly. But as it is, the 4090 is running in here, great, running like a champ, no problems, again, other than not being able to get the side panel onto the computer itself. So yeah, I'm really digging it. I really like the build. I like the way ultimately everything came together. Again, most of the stuff just fit. Getting the properly sized 5090 card will resolve the other integration and installation issues that I'm having here. This thing is a beast. It runs pretty quiet. It runs pretty cool. Maxing out our games, 4K, running up to 120 hertz here on the LG G2. I like the accessibility of having the PC in the room again, just in case we need to manage something, plug something in, update something, whatever, right? It's right here. It's not obtrusive. My wife hasn't complained yet about having this in the living room and asking, hey, is this going to be leaving anytime soon? I need to do a little bit more cable management, but I have big plans, of course, for what I want to be doing in this living room space, rebuilding the TV wall, and I'll be integrating the cable management and all of that stuff, HDMI cables, getting to the computer. So right now they're kind of sticking out from the face of the TV a little bit, but hey, that's how it is. Just for the time being, it will all look a lot nicer when we get the whole project moving along to the way that I want to have this living room ultimately end up being. I do feel like games are running better. I had an 11900K, 32 gig of RAM, Intel based system before. I feel that we've gained quite a bit of frame rate out of running the 4090 in this PC build compared to the old PC build. I haven't done any like super hard benchmarks and stuff against each other, but looking at the games that we've been playing, my son and I, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Marvel Rivals, and some other stuff, overall we're getting much higher frame rates, like pegged up frame rates, whereas they would waver a little bit more or kind of dip below 100 and such with the prior build. So this thing is ready. It's ready for the 5090. And man, we'll be maxing everything out at that moment when we have the full system realized up to its potential. So come on, NVIDIA, get these cards out, get them to the partners, get the builds, get the stock flowing, and let the PC enthusiast community buy your cards. If you have any questions about it or any of the specific componentry that we've talked about here, sound off in the comments, leave your question in the comments. Happy to respond, to discuss. As it is, aside from replacing the GPU, I really don't think we'll be doing anything else with this build for quite a while to come, other than maybe tweaking the RGB a little bit more. Windows installed without any type of trouble, was able to update motherboard BIOS and all of that, and yeah, we were up and running in a matter of no time once the build was worked around and the build was all set. Software setup, configuration, operation, and installation was a piece of cake. There's definitely some moments of sweat there when things kind of weren't fitting the way I wanted them to, and again, it goes. I go back and forth on the merits and the hassles and all of that kind of implicit with the idea of PC gaming. But what's done is done. It came together, and I'm happily remaining a PC gamer in the living room setup and the home theater setup. Overall, the way games look, the way games run, there's just no contest to having something like this against even the best of the best consoles that we have available to us. So thanks so much for watching. Hey, if you'd like to support the channel in any way, I have a bunch of affiliates down in the description. Techthusiasm is a dealer for all kinds of home theater equipment, brands, and whatnot. Kaleidoscape, JVC, Seymour screens, speaker brands, Focal, all kinds of different stuff. Go to the website, www.techthusiasm.net. Take a look at the brand listing. Take a look at the shopping links. Get in touch with me if you need some help. Jeremy@techthusiasm.net. Happy to engage, consult, advise, and get you set up with all kinds of awesome AV and home theater type of stuff. Please do that regular YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video, and come on back for more home theater discussion, PC gaming discussion, and fun.